Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. I hereby declare that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided specifying that this meeting would be held on this date in the Municipal Building Council Chambers, 2nd floor, 55 River Road, Edgewater, New Jersey. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Record and the Jersey Journal and posted in the lobby of the Borough Hall as required by law. I ask for a moment of silence. I ask that we keep our soldiers and United Nations representatives in our thoughts. Councilman Durham, will you lead us in the salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Anyone wish to be heard, Dennis?
I live right close to this school, and I would never have thought this would come to be, but living close to the school with sounds of kids playing and whatnot is magic. You know, I can see where it could annoy some people or something, but I got the best of both worlds, or every world there right now. I think it's just really a nice thing. Plus, the school is pretty good. But along those lines, can ordinary folk get in there and have a look at it? You know, just give us some opportunity to go in and see the.
I think we're going to have a ribbon cutting in at the end of September, and I'm not sure the date, the 27th, but I've been in there a few times. You know, during construction, I was there. You know, we helped unpack furniture and all, but it's an incredible school. It's amazing. I'm very excited, and I believe that date and anything else would be based around the schedule of the students. But I'm sure they're willing to show it off to anybody.
Yeah, I don't want to interfere with ordinary operations.
Right. Well, I mean, but the 27th, I believe, is.
I just saw it online on I don't know if it'll be on the website. I think it said September 27th. We can check it later tomorrow if you have an opportunity. It's a ribbon cutting ceremony at I think 6. Yeah.
Along those lines, then, do we have a handle on what we spent, or what is cost?
I don't have the numbers for you. That's sure the school board can provide it.
Oh, so okay, school board. Almost certainly. Well, I know that Texas went up, and I never thought I'd be complaining about it, but frankly, I'm at the point where it's just considered normal that it's just going to go up. I'm wondering, have you, as a board or representatives from this body, in conference with the Board of Adjustment?
Board of Adjustment? I have regular contact with the Board of Adjustment. Are you talking the Board of Education or the
Board of Adjustment? That's where, if you have a compelling problem, or you have some very real problem with the layout of your property or this or that. I mean, the way the law is written, I believe, is that you're not entitled to just go in there and get an easement or a thing that says you can do things in there that are not okay with our regulations, you know, the things that say what you can and cannot do. Well, it seems to me that we got you up there doing one thing, and we got something else going on in the Board of Adjustment, and that is whoever shows up there who wants something gets it, unless, of course, they somehow cross you guys somehow, you know. And I don't mean it that way, but basically, it's hard to believe that everything that's happening here is within what we contemplated when those things were originally set in stone, you know. So it's not, you know, basically, you don't talk to them, they don't talk to you apparently, and whatever you do has nothing to do with them, and vice versa. But that's not the way it should be. They should not be, but at least they should know what they're doing down there. And frankly, over the years, I don't think they've resorted to looking at it or even going taking the courses that are available. So basically, what's going on is a group of people in this town are independently deciding who and what can, who can do what. It's been going on for a long time. And nobody here really, I think, is actually talking to them about it. You know, like, just I think is anybody read the things that you can or cannot do, what they can and cannot do?
Personally, I haven't know.
Okay. Well, I'd appreciate if somebody would actually look into it and actually take some action, because I think it's necessary. We're watching the inevitable happen here. We have all sorts of development going on here that is never okay. At least as far as I know, and I've been involved here. We've got things here that it's almost like a blow, and it happens for you, you know. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Phil?
We'll wait until the end, Louis. That's all right.
I'm sorry?
Can we wait until the end to vote?
Yeah, sure, okay.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Mary?
Harry Hogan, 606 Underhill Avenue. I have a couple of questions. On Resolution 259 and Resolutions 260, which is the settlement of tax appeals, the figures that the properties have gone down is not broken down into what is the assessments and what is the land value. So I would like to know what they are. In other words, it's a lot, I assume it's a lot bigger, and I'd like to know the breakdown as to what is going down. It's not attached to the resolution, so. Also, I had read in the paper that apparently Mr. Dives has offered a building in town for the museum for the Historic and Cultural Museum. And that having been said, first of all, I don't know why it's not one of our own buildings, but that having been said, I was wondering what actually is happening to the Old Borough Hall, since it was supposed to be for the first aid squad, once the police were not there. And it was supposed to be for another thing that's being discussed was the museum, which apparently now that's not going to be there either. So I was wondering what the plans are for the Old Borough Hall. If anybody knows, or if there's a committee that's investigating that, or what the story is of that. Before it's decided that you don't really need it anymore, it goes up for auction or something. The other thing was I saw in the paper the cleanup of the Hudson River.
Yes.
And a large picture of Councilman Vidal. And the only thing I congratulate all the volunteers that did that. The only thing I questioned was where it was being done. The Edgewater Commons is a privately owned commercial establishment. And the carts that people throw into the river water. That doesn't. We have an ordinance that covers the carts because we were very strong when that became an issue after the Commons was open, in terms of them controlling the carts and not leaving them out so people could throw them into the river, et cetera, et cetera. And if they were discarded someplace in town, the DPW would take it, they would store them. In order for them to get them back, you had to pay X amount of dollars. That's all on the ordinance in town. And instead it appears volunteers are pulling them out of the river, as opposed to the commercial property, you know, doing their own. I don't think, pretty sure the town doesn't own the riparian rights. It's not really our responsibility to clean it up. So I would, obviously, the Veterans Field is closed right now, so you couldn't do it in front of the Veterans Field, which we do own the riparian for, but perhaps a piece of river that the town owned would be more auspicious for cleanup. And if the commercial properties need cleanup, which they obviously do, then the commercial people take care of it as opposed to having people volunteer and do it that way. Unless it's their own people. I mean, maybe people in the stores would volunteer to go out and clean up. People that live there. You know. But it talked about, it didn't mention that, it talked about Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever the mayor and council. It didn't mention people that were members of, well, Holy Name Hospital, I think they don't have a place there, I don't think. In the Commons, I mean.
Okay.
My other question was, and the other thing I had was, while you're cleaning up things that are dumped in the river, what's the status with getting the people that have dumped into the river, taking the illegal fill that they put in the river out? What is the borough doing on that? What's the status of that? And I know that you've issued fines to the Binghamton boat, which continues to sink and becomes a danger in terms of things floating off. And, you know, what's the status of that? We get these little tidbits and then everything just seems to die on the vine in terms of information coming out to the public as to what's being done. If anything's being done, I'm presuming nothing's being done, or the public would have heard about it. That's just wrong. I also have a question on the ordinance, but I'll ask it when it comes up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else wish to be heard? Comment?
Mayor, several meetings ago, you had a line item agenda.
Could you tell me the name and address?
11 Cliff Avenue, Edgewater. Mayor, I believe 2 or 3 meetings ago, you had a line item, repaving of Myrtle Avenue on the agenda. And I know that from time to time, the borough undertakes resurfacing of various streets. When that occurs, if and when it occurs, maybe the council wants to strongly consider North and South Glen Lane. First of all, that lane hasn't been done for over 30 years. It was done when I was sitting in your position, along with some other board members. And then at that time, the only sole question that surfaced in that undertaking was whether or not that properties, both on Myrtle and River Road, extended and was divided equally down the center line. And we didn't even bother exploring that. What we did do, when we resurfaced that, we went door to door and had a waiver signed by all the respective residents. If work was done, naturally, then anybody would certainly, as a whole, town would be responsible, or the contractor would be responsible.
Excuse me, I'd just like to announce the councilman, and what is, Sean? Go ahead, sorry.
But in order to accomplish that, we use the road for emergency purposes, we use it for garbage collection, and not only the residents that but the properties use it. But I know I'm in a I use it on various times. But the gist of it, number one, you make it a cheap cost if it was done by having the necessary equipment. if you do all the roads in proximity to Myrtle, if that was the undertaking. Second, it's desperately needed. And Mayor, I know I spoke to you on this subject matter, and you being a new resident there, been given a proper appearance. Your neighbors should not be, Jimmy, hasn't been done in 30-some years, 30 years. It's in total disrepair. The mere fact that you recently moved there, should not disqualify that group and those other residents on Myrtle and River Road South. The other thing I'd like to bring up, on any of the resurfacing, I know it's always disheartening to have a new street paved, and shortly thereafter, outside of emergency, have it ripped up. You have a house on Myrtle, have the necessary, make sure that they have the necessary hookups, whether it be sewer, water, or gas, brought up to the curb line. So if when the time comes, you resurface, that's taken care of. It doesn't have to be ripped up again. And it's not an inexpensive item nowadays, these resurfacing projects. But that should go throughout the entire community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Valerie.
Valerie Martinez, 16 Hudson Terrace. On resolution 258, it addresses affordable housing for the waterfront project. Currently, MJM waterfront developers are putting. Yes, yeah, but MGM waterfront developers are putting $600,000 in escrow, which is their obligation for 6 units on their property. And I guess they're coming before the council, or this resolution is for the council to address to approve or disapprove the developer transferring his affordable obligation at the Winterburn project. I just have a few questions that the 21 units that this council approved for affordable housing, and several council people opined about the necessity for affordable housing and to meet our COA obligation, which still, our COA plan still is not approved. There's 21 units. So that 21 units, was that credited to the developer, Mr. Dives? Or, I'm a little confused because now it looks like a shell game. You know, you have 21 units, one person gets approved for 21 units, then he takes a portion, sells it to another developer who gets to use, he makes money off of that, which already he received $500,000 from this council. He makes money, he got the $500,000, he got the 21 affordable credit units. Now he's taking a portion of that, selling it off to another developer who gets, out of the same pot, now gets to use 6 units out of the 21 that were already credited to somebody else. He gets to use 6 units for his obligation. So I'm a little confused, and, it just might be me, and there's an explanation to it. But there's a part B to my question. There's supposedly rentals. How do you sell rentals? Is this a condo building, or is it rentals? I came to all the meetings. It was always before this council as rentals. And in fact, when it went before the Board of Adjustment, the whole plan was rentals. So how do you sell rentals? Could I therefore sell my ground floor apartment without going before the state to get approved, which is a lengthy process for condos? I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation, and I look forward to hearing your answer. That's my one correct. I was reading under these resolutions the corrective plan for the council, and in one part it talks about the corrective action was the attorney fees that were billed and received for additional hour fees for work that was retained under a preset retainer. That was the thing that needed correcting. And then the correction was the billing errors were mistakes that have been corrected and refunded. So my question in that part is, did this council receive money back from Attorney Boja? And if you did, could you please direct me to how much and where that money, I might find that in the budget under what? My other question is, and I applaud everybody who volunteered for the cleanup. I think it's a great thing to do, and you know, heaven knows. But now I would implore you, please, Mayor, you said when the weather was nice to come out and walk on Undercliff Avenue. So Doran, I saw you out there the other day. I was going to pull over and say, please get in my car. I want to show you some stuff. There are areas there that are really, it's really disgraceful. You know, we're trying to fashion ourselves as the Gold Coast. There are areas, and I don't like to use this word, that seem pretty ghettoized. And I understand you're not responsible for people who, you know, who don't take care of their property. But we do have measures to kind of, you know, effectuate a change. And one of them I would suggest, which I suggested before, is possibly having an ordinance where people cannot put the garbage cans outside on the front of their house on the sidewalk. It's a simple thing. If you do, put them in a covered receptor. It's, you know, walk there Sunday morning. You know, if you're going to church or you're just walking your children, go on Dempsey Avenue, and you'll see the garbage out there early Sunday morning. It's gross. And the other thing is, if you can get an answer to me, I'd like to know where the dirt fill came for Veterans Fields, and where it's, I see dirt piles back again in Mr. Baggerty's construction site. And I'd like to know where that dirt came from. I want to ensure that it didn't come from a place that it shouldn't have. And if it is fill that has been tested. And I don't understand why the people who are working in that park aren't wearing protective gear if it's really, you know, contaminated. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Judith P. Holly, 1203 River Road. I live on the 21st floor of Hudson Harbor, directly above the park that is being rehabilitated. And I'm very concerned about some recent happenings just in the last couple of days. Well, I should go back to August 31st, the first time I became concerned. And that was when there was excavation surrounding the community center. There were 2 trucks hauling away the excavated, I assume, contaminated soil. One of them was yellow, and I don't know the nomenclature for these things. One of them was yellow, and it is the kind that regularly hauls soil. And the other one was just a blue regular truck. The yellow truck deposited soil on the mound that consists of excavated soil, assuming that it is all contaminated. The other truck, the blue one, deposited soil, excavated soil, in the southern part of the park, but not on the mound. It was actually dropping soil on top of an already excavated area, including an area directly above or below a large tree that was in the southeastern part of the park. Now, that tree has been cut down, and I don't know what happened to the soil that was deposited earlier at that site. But it clearly didn't belong. If it was excavated, it should have joined the rest of the excavated soil. The big concern came to me just on the 15th, which was on Saturday, when I noticed that that contaminated soil was being hauled away, this time just by one truck, that yellow truck, that regularly rises and dumps the soil out. And this truck actually hauled contaminated soil and deposited it where the level of the ground was being raised just west of the tennis courts. It's difficult for you perhaps to visualize it, but it was being raised, covered by plastic, and then fill was deposited on top of it. So that soil that I read in the residential was eventually going to be disposed of, I assumed in an acceptable way, is now being reused. And I'm really concerned because I'm not sure that that park is really being remediated. Is there anything, I mean, are you aware of what's happening there? Is anybody checking up on that developer? I don't even know who they are.
And I've been down probably twice a week. Not all the soil, I mean, I'd be careful when you say that contaminated soil is being relocated. There are 5 hotspots that have been remediated and removed, I believe 100%, and removed from the field. Some soil in that field can be reused.
None of it has been removed. It has all been deposited.
Well, we have our
representative. And I look every day.
Terms Engineering there, he's there every day that there's work going on at the site, and he's responsible. And when tomorrow, the first thing I'll do is make sure that we have a report on everything that's taken in or removed from that field.
Because it's the first time soil has actually been removed from that mound, and I visualized trucks and trucks coming, hauling away that soil, but now it's being recycled.
Okay, well, we have to be sure that the soil at the south end of the field is not contaminated soil. We already heard concerns voiced from the development to the south of the ball field, and that soil is clean soil, and it is being reused. So I just would like...
The soil that was excavated from the area surrounding the community center was deposited.
Well, I'd have to confirm everything. I don't know the soil you're talking about.
So why would you excavate soil, store it in a place, and then reuse it?
If I could jump in, because what you have been seeing is absolutely correct, you're 100% correct. And I was actually surprised in terms of the procedures, and Greg, go back me up on this.
You saw it?
Well, no, I'm aware of what's going on there. In fact, the soil in certain areas can be relocated into areas that are being elevated with the membrane on top. What still remains to be seen, which hasn't happened, is the official clean soil coming in, which is going to be truckloads and truckloads coming in, which will create the final layer, and then
I've seen some of that soil coming in.
And in fact, the hotspots have not been removed yet, and you will see those go out at a certain point in time. So what is going on, per the mayor's point, is absolutely legitimate. It doesn't look like it might be, but our representative terms, which is has to be there on site for the EPA. Will verify every step that we're doing, and it is all on the up and up, if I put that.
I just don't understand why you excavated from one place,
Right.
and then, I mean, if it can't be covered, why was it excavated from the area surrounding the community center?
Because
Whatever
that soil had to come
covered by
out.
plastic.
The soil that came out around the rec center, for instance, had to be taken out. It could be relocated to an L, because it had to be taken out due to the plan. Maybe I'll step back and let them finish up. I'm not prepared to go question for question, but what I'm saying to you is, based on what you're seeing, is what's going on, and I've asked the question, is a legitimate procedure for remediation. The dirt around the rec center had to be taken out because the plan was to go down there and then fill with fresh soil and then hydroseed. That is being taken to an elevated area. It still has to be capped in a membrane, then 12 inches to 14 inches of fresh soil, and then hydro-seeded. It is all part of the original plan that was set up. Unfortunately, I'm there almost every day because of my work situation, so I am keeping on top of it. That's the reason why I know what you're seeing is correct.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Hearing none, I'll close the open portion. All right, number one, I'd like to respond to Mary. The Saturday was an international coastal cleanup. We chose the Edgewater Commons because multiple council members had walked the riverfront, and we looked at it as the portion of the riverfront in Edgewater that needed the most attention, and we decided to choose that spot. It was actually probably done 2 or 3 years ago. Some of the carts weren't pulled out at the time. I received complaints from not only Edgewater residents, but people who utilize the riverfront walkway. And this was one of the spots they chose to pay most attention to, so that's what we decided to do. At the end of the day, it was a very positive day. We removed, I'd say, around 20 bags of garbage and at least, I believe, 8 to 10 quarts. So we worked with it. It's, you know, it's once a year they do the International Coastal Cleanup, but you know, a couple of members down there and some of the walkers said they'd be interested in helping out, if not twice a year, quarterly, and you know, we're moving forward to stay on top of the riverfront walkway. Borough Hall, you know, Mary, I believe we went out to bid for the ambulance corps to move into the first floor, and the bids came back too high, so we're reworking everything. Borough Hall is going to be used as it was originally intended to be used as an ambulance squad on the first floor, and we do have a committee, and the committee's not sure what the second and third floor will be used for, but we're not looking to auction off the building.
There was discussion at the last work session about contacting a real estate firm to come in and look over the premises, to perhaps give us some ideas about whether or not it's worthwhile for renting or leasing the second and third floor. While we're on this topic, just a quick status report of the Borough Hall project. The architect is reviewing the pre-bid qualifications, and we should be going out to bid within a couple of weeks. At that point in time, hopefully the bids will come in favorable, and hence one of the reasons why we're adopting ordinance 1479 this evening, amending.
Dennis, as far as your point with the Board of Adjustment, I'll make it a point to make sure that I have better contact with them. If you feel there's not enough contact between the council and the Board of Adjustment, that's something I will make sure that we can improve on.
Yeah, it's not so much to have contact. I don't think that the basic thing here that you don't approve, just go ahead and approve things because somebody comes in and wants to. They have to have a very compelling reason to do it, and I don't think that's been part of the policy for a long time. And the reason I'm concerned at all is that we have no control over the population.
Greg, I know that the resolutions 259, 260, and 263 were brought up. Actually, 258 as well. Do we have any response?
The MJM units, from what I understand, the 6 units that MJM would like to place at the Winterburn Place development is acceptable, given the fact of the units that were available based on what units were committed by either Mr. Davies or the borough. So that was double checked and triple checked with our planner. So there are ample units for MJM to do this.
Excuse me, Mayor. Should I ask the question again at the next meeting or talk to you after, because that wasn't the answer to what I asked?
Okay, the opening to the public is
Okay.
over.
Well, I just want to know if I have to ask this again.
Any, the 259 and 260, please. I know the,
Those are tax appeals to Mr. Osh's office.
On the Windsor's at Mariners, the original assessment in 2011 was 17,500. I mean, 17,500,000. That is going to be reduced to 16,265,000. And in 2000, and that is also the same for 2012. So the assessment in 2011 was 17,500,000, which is going to be reduced to 16,265,000 and 14,390,000. That is with the advice and consent of our assessor and our appraisal expert.
how about 260?
The other property is Block 62, Lot 12. That original assessment was $1,054,000, which is going to be reduced for 2012 only to $990,000. So that's a rather modest reduction and a withdrawal of all appeals prior to that.
Greg, do we have an answer for the corrective action plan? I'm not actually sure what the question was, but I know it was brought up, resolution 263.
Yes, that was, I believe, that's actually ancient news. As far as my files are concerned, that I believe was credited, the difference was credited on a subsequent invoice. Is that correct?
That's correct. And it could be a couple years ago.
Yeah. And I believe Ms. Martinez inquired about the units at Winterburn being either rental or purchase units. I believe again, and I'll check with the planner, but I believe the credits are different between purchase and rental. So that would be adjusted accordingly. So between purchase units and rental units.
That wasn't my question. I get no answers.
I think Ms. Martinez was trying to find out exactly what is the logistics, I guess, for lack of a better term, of Winterburn. So for example, Winterburn, we have X number of units that are being built by a developer here in town. And we are taking advantage of some of those units. We're purchasing those units to actually comply with our obligation for COA. We have the developers over at MJM who are also purchasing some units from that development to meet their obligation. I guess what she's trying to find out is if that initial project was being built by a developer, and was he building that to comply or to meet his obligations, and now he's selling them off, sort of like double dipping? I guess that's what she was trying to.
That was, thank you, that was part of my question, yes. And the other part was, can you legally sell something that is a rental, not a condo?
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Winterburn was built as affordable housing for no particular, not to meet any particular obligation, but for, I guess for anybody else to come in and be able to transfer their credits to that project.
Yes, our planner has investigated that and has determined that that Winterburn Gardens is not a project that is built to satisfy an additional obligation triggered by other developments that may have preceded it. It is strictly a 100% affordable housing project that has not been dedicated to any specific project to satisfy a particular COA obligation. So in this situation, MJM does have a COA obligation of 6 units and has asked to locate those units in Winter Gardens, which will have a deed restriction that is required by COA to meet all of those standards in order to qualify as an affordable housing project. As Greg has indicated, we have been looking at this for many, many months and satisfied based on the information that we have been told that this is a perfectly acceptable way to have a developer satisfy their affordable housing obligations. As you know, this is not the first time a developer has satisfied their affordable housing obligation by locating them on site. That is permitted by ordinance, and we have been advised that it is also acceptable to COA. So all of this will be put in our plan, and it will be identified as the reporting continues to evolve with COA or whatever other state entity is in place when the affordable housing projects continue. So they've also been advised that I believe there will be rental units, and the transaction between the developer who built them and the developer who would like to locate them there, that also is a matter that is permissible in order to satisfy your affordable housing obligations. So that's the explanation.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Phil, is the Board of Adjustments considered an autonomous body?
Yes, the Board of Adjustment is autonomous and quasi-judicial. They do have authority over certain applications that are presented to them that the Mayor and Council does not intervene. The appeal process, there is a mechanism to appeal a decision, and the way things have worked, our ordinance did provide that appeal would come to the board in certain circumstances, but the majority of those appeals do go to the Superior Court. So we are not the oversight committee of the Board of Adjustment. They do report to the Mayor and Council. They do submit a report every year, a comprehensive report as to the projects that have come before them and the approvals that they have granted. And based on that, our planner is looking into whether or not we should make changes to our zoning ordinance to reflect upon the fact that certain types of development are more prevalent than others, and whether the governing body will shortly decide whether that is in the best interest of the borough. So we're certainly aware of what's going on because they report to us every year. So we'll continue to monitor it and then make adjustments as we continue to study the new zoning proposals that will be coming forward from the planning board.
Any other questions?
Jimmy, just one other point regarding cleanup. I spent a little time with Lean that day, and she mentioned to me that, to Ms. Hogan's point, they do take all those carts, and she kept using hold them hostage as a term, where they then go to court, and for each cart, there's I believe, a $100 fine that's imposed upon whatever business that cart belongs to. Once they pay the fine, they get the cart back if they want it, if it's repairable or if it's still usable, and if not, the cart gets dumped into some kind of recycling bin.
And every one of those carts you pulled out were held hostage.
Yeah, and I think
I'll about Elaine will send a letter.
And by the way, Jim, I think it was close to 20 carts. Yeah.
I think we probably had 10.
Really?
It's running. Say 20.
Well, no, it could have been more carts, but the ones that were not reusable.
Well, I'm talking about what we pulled out of RIP.
Well, some of them were still out.
Yeah, right. But she took them all, whether they were, in good condition or bad condition. They go to her storage company.
Any other questions? This time I ask for an approval for the August 13th, 2012 regular and closed session minutes. I'm sorry. Do I have an introduction?
So,
Do I have a second? Second. Roll call.
Councilman Hedwig?
Yes.
Councilman Doran?
Yes.
Councilman Nanti?
Yes.
Councilman Mendel?
Yes.
Councilman Jordan?
Abstain.
Councilman Bartolomeo?
Yes.
Motion passes.
No received bids. We have ordinance 1479, 2012, titled "An Ordinance of the Borough of Edgewater in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, amending ordinance 1381, 2007 of the borough as amended by ordinance 1387, 2008, and by ordinance number 1424, 2009, providing for various capital improvements for the borough of Edgewater and appropriating $3,060,000, therefore, and providing for the issuance of $1,942,750 in general improvement bonds or notes, the borough to finance the same. I believe this is, we're just amending the wording in the original ordinance. And I believe we're making some money, just transferring the money from the original to the
Right, Mayor.
following one.
Yeah, this introduction sort of is complicated. We're doing a very simple thing. We're simply amending the purpose. This ordinance funded improvements of Phase 1 of the old historic Borough Hall. There's a balance of approximately just shy of $300,000. We're changing the purpose to include Phase 2 in the event that we need additional monies to perform Phase 2. If you recall, we went out to bid the first time. The bids were all over the architect's estimate. We modified the bid package to hopefully get a more favorable response from the bidders. But this is our fallback in the event that we need the additional funding. What seems to be happening is when the economy was having difficulties somewhere around 2008 and subsequent years, we were getting very favorable bidding results. And I've been monitoring this with some of my colleagues in many of the communities, and what's happening is simply contractors are realizing they cannot perform the work for the prices that they were bidding on. So now it seems as though prices have come back to where they should be. And so when the projects are estimated, they took some of those factors into consideration, meaning the favorable bidding. But now, as we see, as we go out to bid, these bids are not holding true to the architect's estimate. So, and we're just changing the purpose. We're not bonding any additional.
Okay, at this time I'd like to open the meeting to the public on ordinance 1479, 2012. Anyone wish to be heard? Mary?
Mary Hogan, 606 on Plymouth Avenue. I just find it very interesting, and I sometimes wonder where I live when the school is built, and they can put the third floor in because their construction came in so low. And we have the Borough Hall, and we can't do it because the construction of that building is going up. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know where.
Mary, it makes sense. It's a brand new building. It's cheaper to build than renovate a historic building.
But
To
the
renovate historic
construction
buildings,
costs should be the same for both.
I don't believe they are. For historic buildings, I think that's where you're going to come, that's where they're running into problems.
Whatever. I know they had 27 million. We're only talking about 3 here, but, there's a big difference. But the other question I had was, in this ordinance, you have $700,000 for the Veterans Field. What is that for? And is that in addition? ordinance that we had passed for the renovations and, you know, the 3 million, whatever it is, for dives to renovate and remediate and upgrade Veterans Field.
This was a general purpose ordinance that we adopted a few years back with the original intent of moving to the second phase of the Veterans Field renovation. So it was this project that actually created the issue we're in today, where we have to do
Contamination, but okay.
right. So this ordinance is funded. This actually, that portion of this particular ordinance we need to cancel or apply it to another project. But it's not needed for Veterans.
Isn't it in this ordinance that you're passing now?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so what you're going to have to do is now redo the ordinance in order to move that $700,000 to something else? Is
If
that
we
correct?
eventually cancel it out or apply it to another project.
Is that how it's, so you could have just said that $700,000 is actually in another ordinance already, which we've done for the field and stuff, and not included in this ordinance, correct? And save maybe us from having to go out the bond for another $700,000. I mean, that seems to be what you're saying.
I'm sorry, I lost you, Mary.
You're saying $700,000 you have in this bond that's earmarked for Veterans Field.
Okay.
Will not be used for Veterans Field because the other bond.
Correct.
So my question to you is, why did you not take it out? And instead of having the bond $3 million, have it $700,000 less?
This was already funded. This is already funded, so the money's already borrowed here. So at some point in time, the ordinance can simply be canceled out, or if the council